Today is May 23rd, 2020. This is a work in progress check-in for the Unreal 4 twin stick shooter that I'm developing, HiWave. It's been a minute. It's been more than 2 months now since I've done the last one, but I've been busy and lazy, and I haven't added that much to the game. A lot of the stuff I've been working on has been like little small things, so not a big cool new feature to make a big you know make a big log about. But um, I figured the little things I do have accumulated into enough, and it's just been long enough that it's worth taking a look at again. I guess the biggest thing I've added has been the title screen. This used to be a static JPEG that just had it was just like an image that I got off the internet, like off some stock photo, and then completely silent. And then these um, menu options were like they didn't animate at all. They didn't do like the fade in, fade out. Like you see now, if you come out and you hit play, they kind of fade in really fast, or they kind of come in. That's all new. That took a little bit of time. Some other YouTuber made a whole video series on like doing intro screen, like doing title screens for your Unreal 4 game. And if you've seen that video and you see the way I've done this, it's very similar. I watched all of the like several hours of videos he made on this topic, and they're all very useful. So I'll put a link to like the first part in the description of this one because it's worth looking at. This settings menu is still the old settings menu. It's still functional, but it's also still the old settings menu. I need to fix that because this is still real. It's still these tacky looking buttons and whatever. So so that's the kind of the one of the big things. The other one, I made a new enemy type. Let me see if I can pull him up. So this enemy is he moves very similarly to the enemy that would dash around the screen. That would just find the position of the player and then just dash towards them. Only this one will only move in like cardinal directions, like up, down, left, right, but it moves faster than that dashing enemy. So it like has the potential to cut off the player as opposed to dashing right at him. So it's a kind of a different dynamic, and I just wanted something to kind of like break up because the number of enemies in the pool were kind of getting a little low, and I wanted something to kind of break things up. So let me see if I can play and actually find one. Actually, it's easier if I open a game map and then go to. I also put in some system where I can start the game at any wave. If you go to the enemy spawn system, right now it's at wave 1, but if let's find a wave where one of these cardinal enemies, one of these new enemies exists. Cardinal pawn will need to go to wave 17. Sure, that's fine. Wave 17. And hit play. And so we should get one. That's my new model for a dash. I just killed me. My new model for the dashing enemy is that little green thing. And then I've also changed some of there's a bunch of little cosmetic changes I've made. See, here's the cardinal enemy. See, he only moves up and down and left and right. And that's kind of how he is. So it's kind of a somewhat different dynamic from like the dashing enemy. And now that I haven't been shooting, waiting for that thing to appear, now that the game's gotten really crazy. So that's new. And then a lot of the other changes have been. I made it so the game, when the waves of the game repeat. So right now there are 41 waves of enemy spawns. And when you get to the wave 41, it goes back to wave 20. But when it goes back to wave 20, it increases the difficulty. The reason why I need to do that is because if the player is able to master the game up until this thing, and then it just repeats, they could potentially play forever and ever and ever and ever. And we eventually want to kick the player off, right? They work up to a score, then and then at some point the game gets so hard that they can't continue anymore. And so now there's a setting in the spawn waves to increase the difficulty, which will just add a constant like factor to like decrease the time between spawn waves, and I think it does that, and then it also it doesn't change the enemy behavior, but I think it's mostly like if you have a group of spawns, it decreases the number of time between them, and then if there's time to the next spawn wave, it decreases the time to that. So enemies accumulate faster, and so they should just accumulate faster and faster and faster up to some threshold, I think, until eventually the game is too hard for the player to continue. So that's in. So now if you play the game from the start, eventually the game, no matter how good you are, the game, I guess, I have no idea, maybe someone's, well, I'm sure people, if you spent enough time with it, you could figure it out, but it'd be pretty hard to like completely just like master this game. At least I'm hoping. I need to do some playtesting, so I'm not entirely sure. Everything else has been cosmetic changes. This aiming cursor used to be this weird gaudy looking thing that I ginned up in GIMP one night, and I've replaced it with this smaller like circle with a dot in the middle, which I think looks a lot better. The sound effects, if you can hear, they've changed. They used to have this issue where the hitting sound effect and the destroying an enemy sound effect were exactly the same. Or no, they weren't the same, but they had no variation in pitch. And so if you were hitting a lot of enemies at once, because of the way they stacked up, you'd get this weird, like, there's a term for it, like the same sound playing twice at the exact same time, and so you get this weird overlapping effect. I've done some stuff, first of all, using new sound effects, which are Kenny sound effects, actually. This comes from that library. And that keeps it from doing that, and I think it just sounds a little better. Other things, if I get hit, there's a kind of a simple looking, now I get hit again. There's a very simple looking particle effect. There wasn't one before. If I shoot an enemy and doesn't die, there's a particle effect that kind of comes off them. That's a little hard to see, but just like little feedback things, like little like polish things, like a lot of little things like that. That's what I've been adding for the last 2 months. So a build of this version of the game is going to be, I'm going to put up before I upload this video, so please go ahead and take a look. I'm kind of at the phase where I'm going to start looking for play testers a little more. I'm pretty sure I said that in the last video, so like whatever, who cares what I think. I'm going to start doing that, and I'm going to start trying to get feedback on like the game balance and the way the game feels, and things like it should change, and if things are too hard or too easy, or like if the ramp up into the difficulty is too slow or whatever. So I'm gonna try to figure that out, but that's kind of my next step. But that's pretty much all I've been able to manage in the last 2 months of working on this game. Again, I'm gonna put a link to that what is it, the UI, the title screen stuff that I looked at for this, and a link to the latest build of the game. So that's about it.